So good day, I am Erica Marul with De La Cruz and we are the group 5. We are tackling about the digital to analog conversation. So first we go to discuss is about the digital signal and the analog signal. Digital signal. So a digital signal is a signal that is being used to represent the data as a sequence of a discrete values. At any time, it can only take on at most one of a finite numbers of values. So finite number of values is a countable numbers less than infinity. Simply, a digital signal in discrete bands of analog levels. The next one is the analog signal. A analog signal is any continuous signal for which the time-varying feature of the signal is a representation of some other time-varying quantity, etc. Analogous time-varying signal. So, meaning time-varying feature of signal is a system whose output response depends on moment of observation as well as moment of input signal application. A simple of it is a sequence of quantized values. The example of it is the sequence of quantized values. Then now we can proceed to a digital to analog conversation. So digital to analog conversation can be performed using resistor networks, and the conversion to an analog signal is usually in the order of nanoseconds. And in electronics, we use a digital to analog converter or DAC or D to A. This is the system that converts a digital signal into an analog signal. This is also a reverse function of an analog to a digital conversion. Digital to analog conversion have three techniques to convert a digital signal to analog signal. The first one is the amplitude shift keying or ASK. The next one, last is the phase shift keying PSK, and that three techniques is being discussed by my other group mates. That's all.
Amplitude shift keying or ESK is a form of amplitude modulation that represents digital data as variation in the amplitude of a carrier wave. In an ESK system, a symbol representing one or more bits is sent by transmitting a fixed amplitude carrier wave at a fixed frequency for a specific time duration. So, amplitude shift keying is a modulation method where ang digital signals niya is ma-change ang amplitude of the carrier wave. Ang modulation di ay is the process or siya ang magproseso sa paghatag sa data signal wave unto a carrier wave. And then, ang amplitude sad is refers to the length and weight of waves or iyang gitas-on ug nilapdon sa waves. Best example niya is sound waves. And then, ang carrier wave sad is maoy tigdala or tig-push sa waves. For example, kung ang digital signal value niya is 1, din ang iyang carrier wave amplitude remains or magpabilin nga pareha. Kung ang digital signal pud niya is 0, din ang amplitude carrier wave is weaker or hinay. And then the advantages and disadvantages of ESK. Advantages: offers a high bandwidth efficiency, has a simple receive design, generation and detection are easy, thus facilitate a simple transmitter and receiver section. Its version is used to relay Morse codes over radio frequencies. Digital data can be transmitted over optical fiber using ESK modulation. disadvantages. Offers lower power efficiency. ASK modulation is very susceptible to noise interference. This because noise has an impact on the amplitude. Poor bandwidth efficiency, and the last is ASK techniques are not suitable for high bit rate data transmission.
We're going to tackle the frequency shift keying. So the frequency shift keying is a frequency modulation scheme in which digital information is transmitted through discrete frequency changes of a carrier signal. So the digital information kuno is transmit sila sa through sa discrete na frequency mo ng changes sa carrier signals, which is the carrier wave. So if frequency is the parameter chosen to be a function of the information signal, the modulation method is called frequency shift keying. So just like this in the picture, this is the input binary sequence, the digital. So and below is this is the FSK modulated output wave, is the carrier wave. So we can say when detailed binary value is 1, the frequency of this carrier wave is higher. So ang values diri sa digital 1, ang diri pud sa carrier wave is higher siya. So when the binary value is 0 diri sa digital, the frequency of the carrier wave is become lower. So for example this, muubos siya nya mo high na pud mo to. So this modulated wave demonstrate how digital signals modulate or change the carrier wave. So sa kaning carrier wave, nag-demonstrate siya na how ang digital ba na mo change siya sa signals na nag-modulate siya through carrier wave. Then there's the advantage of the advantage and the disadvantage of the frequency shift keying. So this technology is used for communication systems such as caller ID and emergency broadcast. Okay. So the advantages of the frequency shift keying is it has a low. The advantages of FSK is it has a lower probability, easy to implement, high data rate, it has better noise immunity than ASK method, so the probability of the error-free reception of data is high. So easy to decode, and FSK transmitter as well as FSK receiver maintain a simple data rate. Okay, so data rate provides high SNR and used in long distance communication. So magamit siya in radio. So magamit siya marami sa radio na long distance. Then power requirement is constant. Then good sensitivity. It has higher immunity to noise due to a constant envelope. Hence, it is robust against variation in attenuation through a channel. That's low noise. So I'm going to the disadvantages of FSK. So the bare performance in the AWGN channel is worse compared to PSK modulation, and it extensively used in low speed modems having bit rates below around 1200 bits per second. So this increased the channel bandwidth required to transmit the FSK signal type. So kinahanglan day mo increase ang channel bandwidth para ma-transmit ang frequency shift keying signal. So it used larger bandwidth compared to other modulation techniques like ASK and PSK. Hence, it is not bandwidth efficient. So dili siya bandwidth efficient kay kasya kay high maiya gamiton na bandwidth. FSK is not required for the high speed modems because with increase in speed and also the bitrate increases. Then when in the telecommunication media, the telephone lines have very low bandwidth, it is not possible to satisfy the bandwidth requirement of FSK at a too much higher speed. So in a method, FSK is preferred only for the low speed problem. So that's all.
Phase shift keying Phase shift keying is a digital modulation process which conveys data by changing the phase of a constant frequency reference signal. The modulation is accomplished by varying sine and cosine inputs at a precise time. It is widely used for wireless LANs, RFID, and Bluetooth communication. Phase shift keying has further two subtypes, which are the binary phase shift keying and the quadrature phase shift keying. So in the binary phase shift keying, also called as reversal keying or two-phase key, it is the most simple form of phase key. Two phases are used which has 180 degrees separation, and two phases are represented by 0 and 1, where 0 represents 0 degrees and 1 represents 180 degrees. In this method, certain basic functions are selected. The position of constellation points in the wave does not matter. They can be placed anywhere. It is the best form of BSK as it can take care of huge noise distortion. However, one major disadvantage of BSK is that it can only modulate one bit per symbol. And the quadrature phase shift keying uses quadrants or four different spaces. In this technique, different constellation points are used for noise reduction. The constellation points are also reduced the chances of error. In this kind of PSK, four different phases are used which are 0, 90, 180, and 270 degrees. Two bits are used to represent the four different phases. So the application of PSK is some of the major applications of it are the multi-channel WDM delay and add a modulator, local oscillator, optical communication, nonlinear effect of WDM transmission, wireless LAN like Bluetooth and RFID. So that's all of it. So thank you.
Advantages of BSK or phase shift keying. It allows information to be transmitted in the radio communication in a way na mas efficient kumpara sa FSK or frequency shift keying. Kaya ang FSK, digital information is transmitted through discrete frequency changes of carrier signal. Next is when we evaluate ESK or amplitude shift keying, mas less ang tendency na mag-error. And then we can achieve a high rate of data transmission using this technique. And also more capable siya or more efficient compared sa other techniques. Disadvantage of PSK na siya ay less bandwidth width siya kaysa ESK. Then non-coherent reference SAD or different static phase P and the two waveforms or different frequencies. Next is extremely difficult algorithms are used in decoding the binary information which is transmitted during ESK. Nighttime na sensitive siya to phase differences. Lastly, minsan mo generate sad siya wrong modulation.